Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of history's most persistent and, frankly, weird numerical patterns. It's a theory that tries to connect ancient disasters, the entire history of Germany, and even modern events all through one single repeating date. So yeah, let's get into it.
All right, so our journey here actually starts in 20th century Germany. We're looking at a date that's so important it has its own name, Schicksalstag, which basically means the day of fate.
And here's the wild part. 4 absolutely massive, nation-shaping events in German history all happened on the very same day, November 9th, or as they'd write it in Europe, 9/11. I mean, think about it. This one date saw the end of the German monarchy, an attempted Nazi takeover, the horrific Night of Broken Glass, and then, decades later, the incredible joy of the Berlin Wall coming down. So, right away, you have to ask yourself, what are the odds? Are 4 gigantic historical turning points all landing on the same calendar day just random chance? A complete statistical fluke? Or is there something else going on here? Well, historians have actually argued about this. Back in 1994, the historian Fritz Stern put it plainly. It's a coincidence. End of story. But then, fast forward 25 years, another writer, Wolfgang Brenner, comes along and says, no way. He suggests there's some kind of historical logic at play, an underlying connection. He even says the 9th of November reacts to the 9th of November. And that idea, that underlying connection, is exactly what we're going to unpack today. To even begin to understand the theory behind that connection, we have to hit the rewind button. And I mean way back. We're talking thousands of years, and we're looking at a totally different calendar. The source material points us to Tisha B'Av. That's the 9th day of the 11th month of on the Jewish calendar. Now, this date is historically known as a day of unbelievable tragedy. In fact, the source we're looking at calls it the original 9/11, a day that the Torah itself apparently marked as a future day of crying. And the historical weight of this one date is just staggering. Check this out. 5 completely separate, catastrophic events spanning almost 1,500 years, all fell on the 9th of Av. The decree that started the 40 years of wandering, the destruction of the first temple, the destruction of the second temple, and finally, the complete and total crushing of the Jewish revolt by the Romans. Just wow. And here it is. Here's the crucial link that the author makes to tie this ancient day of tragedy to modern German history. Germany's entry into World War I, the very event that kicked off that whole day of fate cycle, happened on August 1st, 1914. And on the Jewish calendar? You guessed it, it was the 9th of Av. Okay, so let's break down how the author actually builds this case. They propose that there are 2 different kinds of connections that weave all of these dates and events together. First up is what the author calls the objective connection. The idea here is that the German pattern doesn't actually start in 1918. Nope, it starts over 1,000 years earlier. It goes all the way back to the crowning of the very first German king, Conrad I, on a date that is just, you can't make this up, November 9th, 9/11. That's 9/11. So stick with me here. This is how the author builds this out. It starts with that 9/11 coronation. Then they point to what they call a royal echo. See, the king who died in 9/11 was a guy named Louis IV. Centuries later, another King Louis IV is appointed. And what connects them? According to the author, it's November 9th, 1313. Another 9/11, when that future king won a battle that secured his power. It's presented as this long historical chain anchoring all these events to the date 9/11. The second layer is what's called the underlying connection, and this is really the heart of the whole theory. The author argues that all of these 9/11 events, the German ones from 9/11 AD onwards, and the Jewish tragedies, they're all echoes. They're all pointing back to that one original event, the decree on the 9th of Av in 1313 BC, that first day of crying. But wait, we're not done yet. The theory doesn't just stop with historical dates. The final piece of this puzzle weaves in even more numbers and calendars. The rabbit hole goes a little deeper. Okay, so a new number now enters the picture. 313. Now, you'll notice it's a palindrome. It reads the same forwards and backwards. That might just seem like a fun little fact, but in this theory, it's actually a key piece of evidence. And here's why. November 9th, that German day of fate, happens to be the 313th day of the year on our standard calendar. So that links the date itself directly to this special palindromic number. From there, the author starts connecting even more dots. For example, the ancient Coptic calendar, which comes from Egypt, starts its new year on September 11th, another 9/11. They also point to a Pope Sylvester I, who, get this, became pope in the year 313, and later on, he dedicated the most important papal church in Rome on a November 9th. So we come full circle, right back to this quote from the beginning. When you hear it now, after seeing this whole theory laid out, that idea that the 9th of November reacts to the 9th of November, well, it's not just a feeling anymore. It's presented as this huge, complex system of connections stretching back for thousands of years. Look, our goal here was to map out this really intricate theory from the source material. It takes calendars, kingdoms, and catastrophes and weaves them all into one single story. And it leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. When you look at the long, messy story of human history, what do you see? A hidden code, a secret pattern, or just the beautiful random chaos of coincidence?